I call on Government Orders of the Day numbers 2 to 4.
Victims of Crime Reform Bill, Committee Stage. Victims Orders Against Violent Offenders Bill, Committee Stage. Vulnerable Children Bill, Committee Stage.
I declare the House in committee for further consideration of the Victims of Crime Reform Bill and for consideration of the Victims Orders Against Violent Offenders Bill and the Vulnerable Children Bill. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker. The House and Committee for further consideration of the Victims of Crime Reform Bill in consideration of the Victims Order Against Violent Offenders Bill and the Vulnerable Children Bill. Members, we turn first to further consideration of the Victim of Crimes Reform Bill. When the committee was last considering the bill, we were debating Part 1. The Honourable Marianne Street had the call, and she has 4.5 minutes remaining should she wish to acquire that opportunity again.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
A point of order.
Can I be clear, this was 4.5 minutes remaining of my first 5 minutes?
Second.
My second 5 minutes.
Second call.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right. Thank you indeed, Mr. Chairman. The last time I was speaking on this, the House rose during my second call. And I was saying that Labour was in support of this bill, which we still are. But my word, what a difference a couple of weeks can make to the tenor of a debate. This is the Victims of Crime Reform Bill, and we have before us in this House today, we have seen the most extraordinary performance by the Minister who is the sponsor of the Victims of Crime Reform Bill. That is the Minister of Justice, Judith Collins. Mr. Chairman, there are victims of crime. There are people who suffer because of the crimes that are committed against them. And this bill seeks to address that. But one of the victims of this minister's actions to date has been Truth. And we see Truth as a victim in this particular matter. And I see that it is entirely opposite at this point, Mr. Chairman, to reflect on the sponsor of this bill, because her performance in the House has jeopardised any understanding or any confidence that we might have about her ability to speak the truth to this Parliament. Her ability to speak the truth to this Parliament has been called into question by her own actions.
Point of order, the Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr. Chairman, we are debating Part 1 of the Victims Orders Against Violent Offenders Bill.
I thank the member.
That is not a licence.
Thank you. I thank the member. Yes, I'm just going through Part 1. When we're on the parts in a committee stage. These are narrow debates focused on what is actually in the part, and that is actually what we will now be focusing on in the bill. So we're on Part 1, and I'll ask the member to come back to those provisions that are contained in Part 1. The Honourable Marianne Street.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in the first part of this bill, of course, there are all of the initial provisions that one would expect. So the Principal Act Amendment, the interpretation, the treatment and so on. One of the things that does come up here is the purpose of victim impact statements. And this is something that members of the committee turned their mind to quite substantially, because there were a number of submitters who spoke to this point. And this certainly is a matter of some debate. In the course of the submissions that we heard, there were comments made by the judiciary that it would be better if they still had the ability to control this in a way that allowed the court to proceed without undue delay and without really cutting off the victims' report statements too quickly, without them being able to feel that they had achieved something in making their victims' impact statement available to the court and having that moment in court to address the concerns that they had and the injury that they had sustained through the crime. So this, Mr. Chairman, was something that is certainly a matter of balance, and the supplementary order paper that the Minister has put up in her own name that fundamentally rewrites parts of this bill, that's supplementary order paper 424, has addressed the victim impact statement at clause 11 and clause 12. Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that the victims should be allowed a chance within the safety and the control of the court proceedings to give voice to their concerns. Where I was about to go in the last speech on this bill was to talk about that case that we knew so well of
Honourable Marianne Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Was the case that people knew so well from the media, and that was the case of Sophie Elliott. And the need for the family to be able to say what the impact had been on them, and at the same time be able to address the kind of trial in absentia of their daughter by virtue of the defence's ability to misrepresent her, to in fact say things about her that the family felt were inappropriate, unreasonable, wrong, untrue, and needed to be rebutted. This allows the victim impact statement to be presented to the court, and its purpose is to provide information to the court about the effects of the offending and to assist the court in understanding the victim's view of the offending, and also to tell the offender about the impact of the offending from the victim's perspective. Mr. Chairman, this is a critical point. This is something that we support, and even though there had been submissions from members of the judiciary who felt that it could lead to some disorder or to some lengthy hearings that were not enhanced by victim statements going on for too long, I would err on the side of giving people the opportunity to have their say. So whether a victim impact statement is read to the court by the victims themselves or read on their behalf by somebody else, I think it is part of the process in this Victims of Crime Reform Bill, which allows us to support this legislation. We've got no doubt that the situation of victims in law and otherwise has improved greatly since Parliament first dealt with the issue in 1987, and we don't oppose it. But we do feel that this bill represents another little bit of incremental change, and the bill following this evening will demonstrate that here is another piece of incremental change that could really have been done with a bit more boldness, a bit more comprehensive, of a comprehensive approach, and we could have got more in it. But Mr. Chairman, the thing that is of concern, and I don't wish to incur your correction again, but I am concerned that the Minister who is presenting and sponsoring this bill and the supplementary order paper making a number of changes to the bill, the supplementary order paper 424, has done herself and this Parliament damage. We would not wish to see this piece of legislation be damaged by the irreparable harm that has been done to the Minister of Justice sponsoring this bill by virtue of her own admission, by virtue of her own words. This is an omnibus bill which addresses and changes four discrete pieces of legislation, and it should be able to proceed, even if we do believe it's incremental in its approach, it should be able to proceed unsullied to its passage in this House. But quite frankly, Mr. Chairman, everything this minister touches now is sullied, and it is that reputation that is part of the shadow now that hangs over everything that this minister touches. And this bill is one of those things that she has sponsored. It is a good bill, and we do support it.
I call Dennis O'Rourke.
First,